So we started the Maimah yesterday. We did the first two paragraphs. And we saw a number of questions. The most basic question is, why is it that paraduma is called chukas ha-Torah and not just chukas ha-para? The choik of the Torah, which is called chukas ha-Torah. There happens to be chukas ha-para. There's another pasuk in the Torah. There's 3 times the Torah refers to something as chukas. In Parshas chukas, in Parshas Matos, it also says chukas ha-Torah, and the Rashi there, and it's not talking about paraduma. Rashi there says this is referring to Parshas paraduma, and zeis chukas ha-Pesach, right? This is the chayk of the Korban Pesach, and that's much more reasonable because it happens to be a chayk relative to a particular halacha, a particular mitzvah called Pesach, Korban Pesach. So why is paraduma referred to as chukas ha-Torah? That was the first question that comes up, even though the Rebbe doesn't ask it explicitly. The first thing the Rebbe asks explicitly is why it says v'yichwe lecho. That question is going to be answered right away, but it wasn't asked. Then the Rebbe asks explicitly, why does the para come to Moshe v'yichwe lecho? Because Moshe doesn't bring the para, right? Aaron brings the paraduma. Paraduma is brought by a kohen, not by a Levi. Right? And so the Rebbe brings Rashi, and Rashi says that it will be called Nikra al Shimcha. It's called your name, right? Moshe's para. And why is it called Moshe's para? Well, that the Rebbe helps us understand the first question. Since paraduma is somehow klali to the whole Torah, and the Torah is called Torah's Moshe, so then the para is shayach to Moshe Rabbeinu. Now we don't understand the pneumius of that at all, but we understand the basic idea. There's an equation. The equation is paraduma is shayach to the whole Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu is shayach to the whole Torah, so paraduma is shayach to Moshe. But obviously we'd like to understand that at a much deeper level. In his base, the Rebbe asks, so then what's the shaykh's estimation? Fine, I understand there's this equation, but obviously the fact that it's called the part of Moshe is something to do with the essential reality and nature of the paraduma. In his base, which we saw yesterday also, the Rebbe explains that the reason the paraduma is called chukas ha-Torah is because paraduma is a mitzvah that somehow contains within it incorporates within it both aspects of mitzvahs. And when we say zeis chukas ha-Torah, we really mean zeis chukas ha-mitzvahs, right? That the paraduma is the most klali of all mitzvahs, right? Because when we say Torah, we can be referring to limud Torah, learning Torah, or the performance of mitzvahs. So here, the Rebbe says that we're talking about the performance of mitzvahs, as Torah as mitzvahs, and it is the prototypical mitzvah. Now, what is it? Who remembers from yesterday? What is it about the paraduma? You don't have to explain it, just the basic idea. Right? The Alter Rebbe in Likutei Torah explains that paraduma contains within it both movements from above below and movements from below above. Actually, the order is the other way around. The movement from below above, in other words, a transcendent expression, which is often expressed in mitzvahs, and also shave, which is coming back, drawing godliness down into the world, which generally we call hamshacha, drawing godliness down into the world, that also is expressed in paraduma. Now, what's the famous Maimer Chazal that helps us understand the need for both Ritzoy and Shave? We talked about it yesterday. It's not in the Maimer. Well, okay, that's not a Maimer Chazal. That's a story. That's definitely true. But that's not in the Maimer, right? No, actually, what we said is also not in the Maimer. Quoted okay, just assume you, whatever. We have to go here. I'll get more chairs. My hat to have a chair too. So it doesn't need a chair. It can do a table. Bad idea. You're definitely not for two reasons. One is it won't be here today, and the second is you are showing the whole world, including yourself, that you didn't take any time between the end of Shir and the beginning of the next Shir to look at the Minor, which is a bad thing to show you. Because you don't want to not review the Minor. If you don't review the Minor, you don't know it. So don't do that. Even if you don't review, but you don't have to. We don't have to do show and tell on everything we do in life. Putting on tefillin without, saying Kriya Shema without tefillin, thank you. Putting on, saying Kriya Shema without tefillin. Right? Kriya Shema is Ritzai. Kriya Shema is Hashem Echad, a state of complete hitalut, a state of complete elevation. Hashem Echad. Ein od milvadoi. There's nothing other than the Eibishter. That's what we mean when we say Hashem Echad. Not that there's one God and not another God. That's the most basic pshat in it, but that's not pshat. As Shulchan Aruch says, what's the pshat and what are you supposed to think about? When you say Hashem Echad, that Dalet, the four corners of the world, and Ches, the world and the seven levels of Shemayim, are all completely bottled to Echad. In other words, they have no absolute existence, only relative existence. Okay. Hitalut, elevation, transcendence. Transcending the limitation of physical reality. That's why you say, when you say the word Echad, you go around 4 times, right? If you watch the Rebbe say Shema Yisrael, then the Rebbe goes like that. Why? You're relating to the four different directions of the world, so to speak. Okay.
When you say Echad,
you move your head around. North, south, east, whatever that. Right? That's what you do. You should watch videos of the Lubavitcher Rebbe davening. You'll get an idea of what it's supposed to look like. And even though we might only do it in chitzonius, in an external way, but at least, okay, say there, but at least we're connected to the right way of doing it. Right? The Sukkot is coming up relatively soon. I know that's a funny thing to talk about, but as soon as the weather gets warm around here, you start thinking about Sukkot because it's summer and then it's Tishrei already. Watch the Rebbe shake a lulav before you start shaking lulav this year. How are you really supposed to do it? Because that's how he does it, right? Watch. It's easy to find. And it's quite astounding. I mean, the power of the Rebbe shaking lulav is really something quite astounding. What everybody used to complain about davening with the Rebbe shaking a lulav was that they couldn't shake their own lulav because they were too busy watching the Rebbe shake a lulav, and they wanted, which was always a problem in 770. The Rebbe's walking around 770. It was hard to concentrate on anything else because you wanted to see what was the Rebbe doing. But wait a minute, you have to daven Shemona Esrei. It takes you get used to it. I mean, you don't get used to the fact that the Rebbe's there. You never get used to it, but you figure out how to balance that. But at the beginning, it's very difficult. I remember it being extremely difficult. Not just like, wow, what's the Rebbe doing? So the Rebbe does know how to do these things. Right? So, with Sefer Shev, Kriya Shema without tefillin. What's tefillin? Taking a cow, taking physical reality and using it as a vehicle to draw godliness down into the world. Hamshacha. Ritzai v'shev. What was the other example? The Chazal say that saying Kriya Shema without tefillin is like what?
The sacrifice.
Oh, beautiful. Bringing a sacrifice without libations, without nesachim. Bringing a zevach without nesachim. This isn't the Mimer, just explaining the line in the Mimer. Right? Bringing a sacrifice, which obviously is halah, elevation, elevating the cow, completely obliterating the physical reality of the cow, and it elevates Reich Nichayach to the Eibishter, but also the yayin, the wine that was thrown down the hole in the side of the Mizbeach, that literally went down to the depths of the depths. Right? Okay, Ritzai and Shave, a korban. So Chazal saying Shema without tefillin, which we do sometimes, right? But ultimately, when we say Kriya Shema with brachas in the morning in Shacharis, we say it with tefillin on. And if we wore tefillin at night, we'd have tefillin on during Marav also. We just don't wear tefillin at night, right? So the Kriya Shema is the halah, and tefillin is the hamshacha. So that's Ritzai and Shev. Where do we see that in Paraduma? Paraduma encapsulates, includes both. This we did talk about. This is why I do review.
burnt and elevated?
It's burned, that's the
Ash.
elevation. The ash turns it into ash. There's no more power there. There's no cow there.
And that's
And
water.
yet, then it's sprinkled on the water, and the water is sprinkled on the person. It's drawn down, back down. It's the shape. So to that extent, paraduma is klolas and mitzvahs. That's what the Alter Rebbe explains in Likutei Torah, and the Rebbe says it in one line. That's what is talked about in Likutei Torah. And that's paraduma, being the klolas and mitzvahs. Right? And the last line that we say is al pizeh klolas mitzvahs satara shayachas l'meisha. Klolas mitzvahs satara shayach to meisha. Okay, so somehow paraduma is shayach to meisha. Even though he didn't do it, but we also saw that he commanded it, which was footnote 6, which we didn't read yesterday, which we're going to read now. Right? We said we're going to read it, but then we decided what we did today. All right? Okay, footnote 6, which is really at the end of the first paragraph, talking about the fact that the para is connected to Moshe by virtue of the fact that Moshe commanded the para. Right? And let's see what the Rebbe says in footnote 6. Al derech, similar to para ha-siris, the 10th para, sheyasa melech ha-Mashiach, that Mashiach will make. Where do we learn that from? We talked about it yesterday. How do we know that? I mean, la halacha, how do we paskin that the one of the things Mashiach is going to do is he's going to bring the 10th paraduma. Rambam and Hilchos Paraduma. Right? Halacha sheb'Torah. It's not an agadata, it's not a nice story in the Gemara. It's a halacha psuka, it's a halacha that the Rambam paskins in Hilchos Paraduma, that Mashiach, there's been 9. The first one was Moshe, then 8 throughout the times of the Beit HaMikdash, and the 10th paraduma will be brought by Mashiach. Right? So the same question arises. Mashiach is from what shevet? Yehuda. Why does he bring a paraduma? He doesn't bring the paraduma. I mean, Mela, Moshe Rabbeinu's a Levi, so at least he's around. He's in there. Mashiach is shevet Yehuda. Al derech parak tzir sheyaseh melech HaMashiach shaperish bepashtus hu lo shemashiach atzma yaseh. Right? Not that Mashiach himself will do the para. Why? Because the para because the para has to be done by a kohen. As the Rebbe said here, the first para was done by Elazar a kohen and not by Moshe. Right? Elo shete'as al pi tzivui shaleh. It will be done by virtue of his command, and therefore it's shayach to him. And we'll see later as we go further in the Maimon the power of a tzivui, and how a tzivui is not simply telling me what to do. It's also an asinus koyach. It's also an empowerment to do it. If the Eibishter commands us to do something, not only is he telling us it's something we have to do, which we understand is something we have to do, he's also giving us the ability to do it. So too with Moshe. Right? That rather amazing story that I think it was mentioned in Gimel Tammuz, I don't remember, that Rabbi Groner from Australia was once in Yeshivas, and the Rebbe asked him to do something in Melbourne, and he said, I really don't think I can do that. I just don't think that's right. I don't see how in the world that can happen in Melbourne. And the Rebbe said to him, you're my shaliach, I sent you, I'm with you, and I can. Whoa. If you ever think you can't do anything, well, think again. That's rather challenging. I'd rather not be able to do it, because then I'm putter. No, we're not putter. Okay, let's go right to the Bible. Yesh levar zal pi masha kosav b'tanya. Let's explain all of this based on the time. Now again, our basic issues, right? We've answered them on a certain level, right? But at least that doesn't mean we really understand them. And this is how this works. This is how my mind works, right? The mimer will ask a question, give a basic answer, but then explain the answer for 8 pages, so you'll really understand what you said when you said it, as opposed to, oh, that's a nice word, but I don't really understand it. So the Rebbe is going to explain what he said. Now, what did we say basically? The para comes to Moshe because it's shayach to Moshe, because the paraduma represents all of the Torah, and Moshe is shayach to Torah. Right? And that's why it's called Zeis Chukas Torah, as opposed to Zeis Chukas Para. Okay. Now, what does all that mean? As we mentioned yesterday, I'm not going to go over it again, but we did mention yesterday, if you don't remember what it was, way it goes. There is another pshat in why it's brought to Moshe in a Sikha, in Chelik Lamed Gimel, and Likutei Sichas. We went over it because there's different answers as to why it is that the power was brought to Moshe. Here we're saying it's shaykh because all of the Torah is shaykh to Moshe, the Parah is shaykh to all of the Torah. There in the Likutei Sichos, Chelik Lamed Gimel, you can learn the Sikha. The Rebbe explains a different reason as to why the Parah is shaykh to Moshe. V'yesh levar ze al pi ma shekosav b'Tanya. Tam al zeh shetziva Moshe Rabbeinu l'dor shenichnasu la'aretz. That the reason that Moshe Rabbeinu commanded the generation that entered into Eretz Yisrael, that means the second generation in the Midbar, right? In his 40th year, likros Kriya Shema pa'amayim b'chol yom, to read Kriya Shema twice every day, lekabel malchus shemayim b'mesiras nefesh, to accept upon themselves the kingship of heaven b'mesiras nefesh with self-sacrifice, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, which is the verse of self-sacrifice that there is nothing other than a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore, the Jew is willing to give up his life. The source of Mesiras Nefesh, will give up his life. Also, Mesiras Nefesh, and Moshe Rabbeinu commanded us to say Kriya Shema, even though we're going to talk about that, right? When we see another footnote. But Moshe Rabbeinu commanded us in Devarim to say Kriya Shema, right? Parshas Veschonon is Kriya Shema. It's part of it. Parshas Eikev is the second part. Even though the Mesiras Nefesh necessary was not Mesiras Nefesh relative to the physical danger of going to conquer Eretz Yisrael. Today we see expressions of Mesiras Nefesh in terms of physical danger. There are tens of thousands of Yidden being Mesiras Nefesh every single day, right as we are sitting here comfortably. They're Mesiras Nefesh in the south especially, but also in the north. But B'fayil Mamish in Gashmias, in physicality. That's not the Mesiras Nefesh that was necessary to get into Eretz Yisrael. Why? Even though, this is from the Alter Rebbe, even though Shivtiach Lehem, the Kodesh Baruch Hu promised them, Pachtechem u'marachem you, Yiten Hashem, etc. Moshe Rabbeinu says to them that the Kodesh Baruch Hu will put the fear of you upon the nations. So fighting the nations was not an Indian and Mesiras Nefesh because we were going to win, and we knew we were going to win, and they were going to, foreshadow the French, right? And they will drop their arms before the war even starts, right? It's always a joke about used armaments, right? The French army was selling guns, only dropped once. So it was easy to get. It was cheap, right? So they were afraid of us. There was no need for Mesiras Nefesh inside the war. We were going to win miraculously, and we did. Right? So then what's the Mesiras Nefesh that Moshe Rabbeinu was commanding us for? It's not Mesiras Nefesh in Gashmias, in physicality.
Did not a single Yid die during the war? Wasn't there Mesiras Nefesh at least a couple?
Well, there were those who went against the orders and died, right? I mean, right after the Meraglim, that wasn't conquering Eretz Yisrael. It was, but it wasn't.
For sure.
Right? No. The people, the Mapilim, who went up and tried to fight without Moshe and without the Aaron, so Moshe told them, you're going to lose, and they did.
Yeah.
Right? But no, I mean, anybody who did what they were supposed to do and followed the orders evidently was fine. That seems to be the case. Why did Moshe tell us about Kriya Shema as we are entering Eretz Yisrael? Because the notion of Mesiras Nefesh, all of Torah and mitzvahs, is dependent on the idea of Mesiras Nefesh, the 25th parak in Tanya. Right? And a person, when they're doing mitzvahs, has to have in mind the notion of Mesiras Nefesh. Simply, the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya that if you have a taiva for something in Olam Hazeh, you should be able to overcome the taiva simply by reminding yourself that were your life to be at stake, you would make sure you wouldn't do this avera. So certainly you can overcome the desire you have to do a particular avera. Meaning if someone, chos v'sholom, were standing with a gun telling you if you don't do this avera, I'm going to kill you, so you'd be Mesiras Nefesh. It's the history of the Jewish people. Right? So if we would be Mesiras Nefesh to make sure we wouldn't disconnect from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, so then all the more so we can overcome a particular taiva that we have in order not to disconnect from the Kadosh Baruch Hu. 25th parak, right? So that Mesiras Nefesh is the source of proper performance of Torah mitzvah. So for that reason, Moshe Rabbeinu taught us about Mesiras Nefesh before we went into Eretz Yisrael. So now the Rebbe is going to explain that on two different levels. V'yesh leimer, the zeh shemesha dafka tziva zeh. The fact that Moshe commanded this, l'dor shenichnas u'la'aretz, to the generation that entered into Eretz Yisrael, ki mesiris nefesh minyan a bittul. Mesiris nefesh is bittul. What does bittul mean? Bittul means I'm unimportant and don't matter? No, actually the opposite. Bittul means you're an extension of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that you're not an independent being, that you're an extension of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That means you're actually of incredible importance, incredible value, right? But why am I not so excited and such a big balgaiva because I'm so important and so vital? Because everybody else is also, more important than anybody else. Everybody else is also that. Everybody else is also just a little piece of the Eibishter walking around in Alamazah. Right? And Mesiras Nefesh is an expression of bittul. What do you understand? That your life is ultimately, your life is about expressing the HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will. And that means if the time were to come, God forbid, that it's either my life or the Eibishter's will, so then the Eibishter's will wins. And that's Jewish history, unfortunately. It's brought in Chassidus that one of the things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu seems to enjoy about Golus, in a strange way, is our Mesiras Nefesh. V'keivin sha'adam hu metzias. And since a person is a metzias, he's an existence, in other words, he's very powerfully aware of his own independent existence. Hepech in a bittul, which is the opposite of the whole notion of bittul. Bittul being that which I appreciate the fact that I'm simply an extension of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's existence and have no separate independent existence. But my experience is that I do exist. My experience is that it was me that got up in the morning and made the decision to get out of bed or not get out of bed. I refer to myself as I, and that's okay. There's a word in every language. So that metzias that we experience seems to be the opposite of bittul. Therefore, in order that the whole notion of Mesiras Nefesh should be by this person in a revealed way, because after all, it might very well be that the one thing that I'll guard more than anything else is my own life, which would mean I wouldn't necessarily be brought to a state of Mesiras Nefesh until here, but no further. No, there's to be alive. You might find all sorts of reasons to do the Aveira as opposed to be Mesiras Nefesh. Uba'ofen shia kavua b'libay tamid, and in such a way that it should be set in his heart constantly. Mamish yemam v'layla lo yomish mizichreinei. Day and night it shouldn't ever be dismissed from his memory, from his conscious reality. The idea of Mesiras Nefesh, that's the lashon of the Alter Rebbe in Tanya. A person requires a special empowerment. You and I ourselves will find it very, very difficult to be that, again, that the word is one of the most misunderstood words in all of Chassidus, bittul. Bittul does not mean you sit in a chair and drool all day because you have no personality, no seichel, you're just a blob. Bittul means that you realize that your existence is an extension of the Eibishter's existence and you want to use your existence to express his, as opposed to express your own. What's your agenda? A yesh, which is the opposite of bittul, someone who's very into his own yeshus, his own. What's his agenda? His agenda is that people should think I'm good. I'm smart, I'm rich, I'm bright, I'm athletic, it depends where he is, right? If he's hanging around with a bunch of athletes, so then the yeshus will be that they know that I'm also athletic. Right? He's hanging around with a bunch of scholars, so then they have to know that I'm also smart. And he's hanging around with a bunch of businessmen, well, they know that I'm also successful in business. So whatever it is that's going to somehow give them the impression that I'm okay. So that'll be the agenda mitzad yeshus. So when a person walks into a room, what's his agenda? So if he's a yesh, his agenda is that the people in the room should think that he's cool. Whatever cool means, right? Right, fill in the blank. Rich, successful, smart, chassidish. whatever it is, right? Right. No, that you think is okay. Chassidish Yetzirah, right? He wants everybody to think he's Chassidish, so obviously he's a big yesh. He's not Chassidish. Okay, Beseder, but he wants everybody to think he is. Right? Why? Well, he hangs around with Chassidim, so that's what Chassidim find valuable. So he wants everybody to think he is that way. Or a great doctor. We all know you're a great doctor. You've never told us we know.
I'm not sure if I understand about how Messiah's Nefesh is being manifested here in this situation.
Well, here, the Rebbe hasn't really been talking about the actual expression of Messiah's Nefesh. He's talking about the source of Messiah's Nefesh.
Okay.
Why would someone be Messiah's Nefesh? Because he realizes that his life is about something bigger than him. His life isn't about him and making his life as comfortable as his life can be. His life is about expressing Elokus and Elamazah. And what if that were to even come to the point where there's a need for Messiah's Nefesh? B'fayr, in Gashmias. So he'll do that. What if the Messiah's Nefesh is not so much Messiah's Nefesh in Gashmias is Messiah's Nefesh in Ruchnias. And what's that? So the Friedrich Rebbe explains that at great length. In a number of my Messiah's are Ratzeh. Gives up his own Ratzeh. Gives up his own will. What's powering his life? Kadosh Baruch Hu's will. What's Kadosh Baruch Hu want from me? That's what he does. Right? Now that can be expressed in moment by moment performance of mitzvahs, or also obviously in a more general expression as to, what am I doing with my life? What's life about? So what is life? Objectively, we can all understand and say very, very clearly, and I hope we all agree, right, that life is about the Eibishter and expressing the Eibishter's will, and we were sent down here to be his shaliach and bring about the revelation of him. Okay, I think we might all agree with that intellectually. Do I live that way? Why not? And if I do, there's still going to be moments where I don't. Why not? Because I experience my own existence very powerfully. Yeah, okay, Beseder, call it Nefesh Bahamas. Okay, good, great, now I understand. I have a Nefesh Bahamas. So what? So I have a Nefesh Bahamas. I understand. Is it a good idea to walk into rush hour traffic on the 395 in Miami? Is that the
395?
Right. Is it a good idea to walk into the 395?
I-95.
I-95. It's a good idea to walk into the I-95 with your eyes closed at 4:30 in the afternoon to cross to get to the other side, even with your eyes open, right? Is it a good idea?
Or a Grippus at 7:30 in the morning.
What?
Or a Grippus at
Or a Grippus that's out there. We got the police were stopping us from going anywhere we wanted to do. So I don't know. So we walked in between the cars with our eyes open. Okay, is it a good idea to walk into the I-95? No, bad idea. Okay. Do you have a taiva to do it? Of course not. I understand why in the world, it's iskafia. Every day I wake up and I just have this incredible taiva to walk into the iPad, but I don't do it. Because I don't have a taiva to do it. Why? Well, because the idea of, now, what if I'm 2 years old? Oh, so then I might not know so clearly that that's a bad idea, right? And so that's why when you walk next to the I-95 with your 2-year-old, you're holding onto his hand so hard that the blood has stopped rushing to his fingers, right? Okay. So what's the difference between him and you? You have incorporated the understanding of I-95 being off limits so powerfully that you don't even have to think about it. As you're walking along, you can have an extremely sophisticated, deep, and important conversation with the person next to you who's on the other side. The I-95 is right there. You're walking on the sidewalk right next to it. And he's over here. At no point will you come close to the I-95 and you have a certain appreciation and awareness, constant awareness of the fact that I'm going to stay at least a foot away from the curb. You don't have to think about it. It's just you. Okay. What if the I-95 were anything that contradicts God's will? Should I go there? No. Might I have a taiva to go there? Yeah. Why? Because obviously I haven't internalized that understanding to such an extent that it's become me. Right? It's what I do, but it isn't me yet. Because if it's me, I don't go. Because me is, I'm an adult, I don't walk into traffic. That's just, I don't have to think about it. It's not that I'm sitting there, I get up in the morning and I'm misbaining. Okay, you're gonna have to walk in downtown New York today and don't walk into the traffic. I don't have to do that, right? Because I figured that one out. And it's so ingrained in my conscious reality that it just won't happen. It's called das. That's what das is, right? It's just me. And it's so much part of you don't have to think about it. Oh, so how about an Aveira? I'm not holding it. Why not? Well, because my appreciation of Elokus isn't the same as my appreciation, I'll use the word. Appreciation of the danger of the Aveira isn't the same as my appreciation of the danger of the cars. It's just not the same. Right? It's a whole different level of understanding. To a certain degree, why do I allow myself that difference? Well, because I'll call one my choice and the other objective reality. I decided I'm from. Cars, I didn't decide cars destroy people. That's objective reality. So they think that I'm just going to stay out of the way because they'll win. What if I get to the point, and this is the bittul of the Mesiras Nefesh, what the Rebbe is talking about, of the appreciation of anything against the Eibishter's will and anything that separates me from the Eibishter as dangerous and as much a no-go zone as the cars on the highway. That's internal. I mean, why? Because not my choice. It's objective reality. There's an Eibishter, and there's a Torah, and that's what reality is. It's not that I've decided I'm such a good guy, I'm doing the Eibishter a favor, I'm going to do a few mitzvahs. But that takes time, right? That's a call to Veda to get to that point. Get to the point of not walking into the highway with cars. It's not so difficult, right? I mean, by the time the kid is 6, he figures that out. What?
Say for a football player.
Okay, but no, there might be people who will be Meiser Nefesh for a few dollars. Okay, right? Say yes, the people might put themselves. In all fairness, people put themselves in danger for reasons. There's also people who put themselves in a dangerous situation because they realize there's something more important than them, and that's called Mesiras Nefesh. That's what soldiers do. Right? That's called Mesiras Nefesh. Okay, that's impressive. It's not stupid. The football player might be stupid, right? He's rolling the dice. Is he going to make it out of this without serious brain disease? He's going to have a lot of money at the end. Is he going to be able to live and enjoy the money? Okay, it's hit and miss. Say that. Okay, most of them seem to do okay. Fine. But it's true. But there's also objective reality where I'll say that my life isn't as important as that thing, or my life is about that thing. It doesn't have to be that I give up my life. I can also live my life. And when the Rebbe is talking about the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to instill us with Mesiras Nefesh when we entered Eretz, it wasn't about giving up our life. That's exactly what the Alter Rebbe says. It wasn't the war. It was doing mitzvahs with Mesiras Nefesh, doing mitzvahs with the appreciation of the bittul of this thing that I'm going to experience called life is about the Eibishter. It's not about me. I'm going to try to live it that way. That's hard, because it's always me. That's what the Rebbe says. It's so amazing. The cave in Sha'adam U'Metzias. The Rebbe doesn't, it's not that the Rebbe is pretending he doesn't know that we experience our own existence. Right? So now, we haven't got to the next line. We have to see the next line to understand why the Rebbe is telling us this. Which is, Hepechin in a bittul. Let's read that line again, third line. Lochin Berteshin in Mesiras Nefesh. He has like the Golo. Since in order that there should be a revealed expression of Mesiras Nefesh, this bittul of realizing that my life is about the Eibishter and whatever he wants is what's going to be expressed in my day-to-day behavior. Ba'ofen, and these are the words of the Alter Rebbe in Tanya. Ba'ofen shia kavua b'libay tamid. It should be said in his heart constantly. Mamish, like really. Yemam v'layla lo yamish mizichron. It should never leave him. Oh, in order to reach that state, sarach lezen asinus keich miyachedes. You need an empowerment, something special. Where does that come from? And the scene is Keich or Yidei Moshe. Where does the Yid get the ability to be Batel? Moshe Rabbeinu. Second parak in Tanya. One of the first things the Alter Rebbe tells us in Tanya is you need a Rebbe in order to serve God. To be Batel. Well, but your Bittel isn't to the Rebbe. I mean, there is that too, but that's not the issue. What is Moshe giving the Yidden? Bittel. Why? Ki Moshe in a bit. Moshe is all about bittul. We'll see just what that means in this Maimon. This Maimon is going to explain a lot about who Moshe is. V'nachnu ma. Moshe is the one who says nachnu ma. Moshe says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, nachnu ma. We're what? What do we want now? He's saying it in the context of why the Jews are bothering him so much. But nachnu ma. That statement stands alone and expresses who Moshe is. We're ma. We're batul. He's talking about Myron himself, obviously. L'chein, now the Rebbe says something really very interesting. Because the Rebbe just told us that the fact that Moshe commands something is in the Sinus Kayach, that gives power to the Yid to do it. L'chein al Yedei Moshe Siva L'Dorshan Ifasulat, that he commanded the generation that entered into Eretz Yisrael, L'Kabel Aleim Pamayim B'chol Yom, to accept upon themselves twice every day Malchus Shemayim B'Mesiras Nefesh. Kriyishma, therefore, is given to each and every one of us the ability to reach this state of Mesiras Nefesh, the state of bittul, the state of appreciation, the fact that our lives are about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not about us. We live them, and we're allowed to live them, and we're allowed to enjoy living them. But what's it about? It's about the Eibishter. It's not about me. And we've talked about this so often. Right? Some people think that that's going to be very depressing because then, what about me? I don't know. There's a bunch of gentlemen in this room who I share the age with. As a matter of fact, we're split down the middle here, so I feel very at home. A bunch of old guys in this room. So I think the old guys will all. I think they'll agree with me in what I'm about to say. My experience has been that the most simchadik people that I've met in my life have always been the most Hasidic people that I've met in my life. Always. Those two just go together. Did they have the easiest lives? No, absolutely not. Those two do not go together. Being a Hasidic Yid and having an easy life do not go together. Being besimcha, being a Chassid, go together. Having an easy life and being besimcha do not go together. Those two don't go together. They might, but they don't necessarily. Everybody's trying to tell us that it does, but it's just not true, and then it's even more depressing. No, because I figure if I, make enough money and do enough exercise and listen to the right Tony Robbins tapes, so then I will, be happy because my financial, physical, and emotional reality will all be perfect. And then chas v'sholom, the person gets sick and they can't handle it. But wait, I exercise every day. Well, it just doesn't, that's good. You should exercise every day. It's good. You really should exercise every day. It's good for you. But it's not a guarantee for anything. It's good for you, but God will decide whatever God decides. I made all the right moves in my business. Everything. And I just lost a fortune. The businessmen will agree with us about that one, right? Very, 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 very close friend. I told you guys this last week, but most of you weren't in the room before the break. Very close friend who's we davened in the same shul, and he's an extremely successful businessman here in Eretz Yisrael. He builds buildings all over the country and very quietly gives an enormous amount of tzedakah to Lubavitch all over the world. And, meaning, the Gimel Tammuz, if Gimel Tammuz falls out on the Shabbos, so you're eating his food. He pays for the whole thing. He's quietly, no one knows. Quietly. A friend of mine was once standing next to him at the chasna. Someone came in to talk to him at the chasna, walked up to my friend, who was standing right next to him, said, "Do you know where so-and-so and so-and-so is? Is he here?" So he said, "I don't know, I haven't seen him."
He asked him if he's seen the guy, and the guy himself said,
Yeah, he was standing right next to him. The guy was standing where Eliyahu is, right? He asked me, "You seen Eliyahu?" I said, "He might be here, I don't know." We'll never let us, even though they might write up a big article in the Lubavitch stuff about a project that he paid for, his picture will never be in the article and his name will not be in there.
Wow.
He's a very interesting guy. Right? He really is. And he says all these every now and then. He says, "Oh yeah, I built that mikveh." He'll say that to me. I'm his friend. He'll say, "Yeah, I built that mikveh." Said, "Oh yeah, they needed a mikveh. We went up. It was a nice thing. We went up. 3 or 4 of the tanks running around Eretz Yisrael are his tanks. He bought the tanks. He's paying for the tanks. He's a very interesting guy. So he told us the mitzvah tanks.
Ah.
Mitzvah tanks. So Yeah.
Not allowed.
Right, yeah. So
So
you say
what?
thanks, you take. No, you're right. You're right. So the other day it was the Shabbos right before Rav Mordechai Eliyahu's yahrzeit, Chaf Daled Sivan. So the Shabbos it was Chaf Gimel the day before, and we were talking about Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, and I had met him. There were a few people at the table who had met him, and were telling stories. Different. He was around, right? So. Eli told the story that he once went to Rav Mordechai Eliyahu to talk to him about a business deal. He said, should he go into this business? What does he think? So Rav Eliyahu said yes. So he went and he lost everything. Everything. Right? Not everything he had, but everything he put in, gone. Like he didn't not make. He lost. Anything he invested in it was gone. I don't know exactly how that works, but okay. I figured, at least you should get out what you put in, right? It's still there, but no, gone. Okay. So he went back to Rav Eliyahu, and he said, what happened? So Rav Eliyahu said to him, I'll say it in Hebrew first, because they were talking in Hebrew. He said, Ta'iti, I made a mistake. Raka admor mi Chabad lo to'eh. He said, only the Lubavitcher Rebbe doesn't make mistakes. That's what Rabbi Eliyahu said to you. He used to call the Rebbe the Admor Mechabad. Rak Admor with that heavy Sephardi accent. Rak Admor Mechabad. He was such a chassid of the Rebbe. He just loved the Rebbe. So, then Sinus Kerek for Moshe. What's Moshe? Moshe in Yinapitul. V'nachnu ma. Therefore, Moshe commanded the Jewish people to say Kriya Shema twice a day in order to give us the koyach to be Meiser Nefesh. Wow. Okay, look at footnote 16, which is really very important, because this whole Inyan of Moshe Rabbeinu commanding us is fascinating, and also the Rebbe is going to be medayik in the Lashon of the Alter Rebbe in the time when the Alter Rebbe explains it. Al pi Moshe Kosev Bifnim, based on that which is written Bifnim, Yum Tak Lashon Admar Zokin B'Tanya Sham. It's sweetened, in other words, it's more fully understood, the language of the Alter Rebbe there. Lama, this is the language of the Alter Rebbe. Now, there are a lot of extra words in what the Alter Rebbe says. Lama tziva Moshe Rabbeinu olav hashalom b'mishnah Torah l'dor shenichnasu la'aretz likrei kriya shema pa'amayim kodem. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu in Mishnah Torah teach the Jewish people about Kriya Shema? Why not just say why did the Jewish people learn about Kriya Shema before they entered Eretz Yisrael? Why do you have to say Moshe Rabbeinu in Mishnah Torah? What's relevant? I'm sorry, l'chula. At first glance, it should have said, Lama nitztava hador shenichnas la'aretz. Why were they commanded, the generation that entered into Eretz Yisrael, why were they commanded to say Kriya Shema? Now, this question is a very interesting question. Al pi nigla also. Why? Well, we just read Parshas Korach a week and a half ago. What was one of the complaints that Korach had against Moshe? One of the questions. Korach asked Moshe a number of interesting questions. What were some of the questions that you can think of?
Why should he be the leader?
Okay, yeah, and he brought certain examples. He asked halachic questions. Right. If the whole garment is made of techeles, then does it need tzitzis? Right? Because tzitzis are techeles. Right? Beautiful. Another question he asked. Mezuzah. Right? Bayis malei svarim. If there's a house full of books, so do you need a mezuzah on the door? Right? What's in the books? Well, what's in the mezuzahs? The house is full of mezuzahs. Right? So why do I need a mezuzah on the door? Oh, okay. When was Korach? When did that happen? And you know, because it says in the Torah. And you all learn Rashi every single day.
After the Moab?
After the Meraglim. When were the Meraglim? Year 2.
2 years into the year.
Right? 2449. In the year 2449. We're now 5784. In the year 2449, 2448, we got out of Mitzrayim. 2449, Pesach, we built the Mishkan. Right? That summer, the Meraglim went, right? The Meraglim, Tisha B'Av, right? They came back Tisha B'Av, right? And then right after Korach, right? Okay. So in the year 2449, Korach kvetched, and one of the questions he asked Moshe Rabbeinu was, if there's a house full of Sfarim, does it need a mezuzah? Okay. Why is that interesting? How do we know to put a mezuzah up on our door? Where? Well, you're what you're saying is true, but Yossi, I love you dearly. But the fact is that you say this all the time, and so not just you. I'm picking on everybody here. You're right. Devarim. How do you know it's Devarim? Where in Devarim? Where in the Torah does it say to put a mezuzah up on your door?
Nowhere.
Nowhere. What?
Torah Sheval Peh.
Ma pitom.
It says to write them upon the doorposts of your gates.
In what chapters of Torah? It's not Kriya Shema? I don't know. This morning, will you pay? I hopefully already said Kriya Shema today. Will you pay attention a little bit to the words you're saying? And after you say that you should tie it on your arm and put it as a sign in between on your head, right? Then you're going to say and you should write them on your. You say that twice in Kriya Shema, which was taught to us when? We just learned. When did Moshe teach us Kriya Shema? What did we just learn in the Mayanot? We're learning right now. This is not this.
Before
Before we went into so, what year is that? Year 40.
Yeah.
2488. Okay? I math, 2448 we left Mitzrayim. 40 years later we got into Eretz Yisrael. Nisan 2488 we got into Eretz Yisrael. So in the year 2488, or it might have been 2487. No, it was 2488. Sorry, it was Shvat. It was the last 40 days of Moshe Rabbeinu's life, right? The last 37 days of Moshe Rabbeinu's life. So he said Sefer Devarim. And in Sefer Devarim, he told us twice, 2 different chapters of Kriya Shema, both of which contain psukim about mezuzahs. So now there's always an interesting question that everybody asks, and it's a perfectly reasonable question.
Well, this Torah asks this question.
Well, yeah, but before that, everybody asks, did we wear tefillin in the midbar? Because after all, there's 4 chapters of Torah in tefillin. The last 2 were in Devarim, which we only got in the 40th year, right? So the first 2 were in Shmos. Before it says Mitzrayim. Okay. So did we have tefillin? What was written in tefillin? We had 4 boxes and 2 were empty. How did it work? Did we wear tefillin in the midbar? Well, we just learned something really interesting. In the 2nd year, what did Korach already know about? Mezuzah. Where's mezuzah written in the Torah? Kriya Shema, year 40. So therefore, what did everybody already know about?
Mezuzah and Shema.
It's Kriya Shema. So then the question arises, and this is really what the Alter Rebbe, this is why the Alter Rebbe, this is a question in Nigla, but the Alter Rebbe is relating to this in this footnote. The Rebbe is bringing the Alter Rebbe in this footnote. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu repeat the mitzvah of Kriya Shema? It's fairly obvious the Yidden were saying Kriya Shema the whole time. How would he know what a mezuzah is if they weren't saying Kriya Shema? That's where mezuzah is found. They only knew about mezuzah and they didn't know about tefillin? That's like a funny thing to say. They definitely knew about tefillin because tefillin is also mentioned in Shmos. So I assume they knew it all. Right? So then the question really arises. So then why did Moshe Rabbeinu in Mishnah Torah tell the Yidden again about Kriya Shema? Because they knew about Kriya Shema. Why is it written in Devarim? It could be written in Vayikra also. They must have been saying it. Because Korach came and said, do we need mezuzahs? So Moshe might have said, Korach, what's a mezuzah? Have you ever heard about a mezuzah? He didn't say that. That's so interesting. Korach knew about a mezuzah. Okay, so then the question as to why Moshe Rabbeinu taught us about Kriya Shema in Devarim is really a much deeper question, because clearly we knew about Kriya Shema, and we were probably saying Kriya Shema. Why not? It's a mitzvah. Why keep it from us? It's a mitzvah d'oraisa, right? So why keep it from us? Umana geya b'zeh, the Rebbe says. How is it relevant? That the tzivui was through Moshe, and it was said in Mishnah Torah. Why does the Alter Rebbe say, why did Moshe Rabbeinu all of a shalom in Mishnah Torah tell the Yidden about Kriya Shema? What's it got to do with Mishnah Torah and Moshe Rabbeinu? Why not just say, why did the Yidden, meaning, there's a question, why did the Torah write Kriya Shema in Devarim? Because it was around before, right? I mean, we knew about it. How do you know? Kada! He knew about a mezuzah. Al-Pi Masha goes up Bifnim, based on what we just said, that the koyach to fulfill Kriya Shema comes from Moshe Rabbeinu, Yesh Lemesh, Bezemer Ramez, and this he hints, Shakoyach, the power, the ability, the potential we have, Al Zachiris and Mesiris Nefesh, Umi Moshe, comes from Moshe. And that's why the Alter Rebbe says, Lama Nitztavu, he says, Lama Tziva Moshe Rabbeinu Olav Shalom b'Mishnah Torah. Okay, so now theoretically, what words could be left out at this point? Mishnah Torah. Could just say, why did Moshe command us? What's the answer? Because we need an Asinas Koyach, we need an empowerment from Moshe. Because without that, it'll be very hard for us to get beyond our own Metzias and actually connect to a Kadosh Baruch Hu in the way that we can. And Moshe is the one who gives us that ability. Okay, but why Dafka b'Mishnah Torah? Why can the Alter Rebbe says Moshe Rabbeinu Olav Shalom b'Mishnah Torah? Leave those words out. Now the Rebbe explains those words. Ubichdei lahadgish, in order to emphasize this, Oid Yoser. Now the footnotes, of course, were written by the Rebbe. This is a very important footnote. Ubichdei lahadgish said Oid Yoser meisif b'Mishnah Torah. Why? Mishnah Torah Amar Moshe loirak b'Tor shaliach. Mishnah Torah, Moshe wrote not only as a shaliach of Kadosh Baruch Hu, telling us what Kadosh Baruch Hu told him to tell us verbatim, Elami Piatzmei. You know, the Devarim is Moshe Rabbeinu talking. So in other words, it's coming from Moshe himself. So in Devarim, in Mishnah Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu gives us the koyach himself. He gives us the koyach to be Mekayim, the Inyan of Kriya Shema. The Iker Inyan of Kriya Shema is the bittul of Mesiris Nefesh. And that's necessary as we go into Eretz Yisrael, because what are we going to start doing in Eretz Yisrael? Mitzvahs. Not fighting wars, mitzvahs. Megillah Lamed Aleph, Perish Rashi Shem, the fact that the Devarim was said by Moshe himself, and it's written differently, right? Moshe refers to himself as I. Right? Kadosh Baruch Hu said to me, he doesn't say that in any of the other books. Hainu, Shezenis Atzem Ba'asagosai. This has become an essential part of Moshe Rabbeinu's understanding and comprehension of reality, and Moshe gave that to us. So it's really interesting, because Moshe, not so much as Moshe Rabbeinu is simply the mouthpiece of the Eibishter, but Moshe Rabbeinu, who's the person who embodies Elokus in a person, as a person with his own intellect, his own midas, his own reality. Dafka, that's Mishnah Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu in Mishnah Torah tells us Kriya Shema. Again, so to speak. Wow. Okay, let's see. Let's go quickly further. We have 2 more minutes. So it all came through Moshe. Second parak in Tanya, one of the first things the Alter Rebbe tells us in Tanya is that you need a connection to Moshe to serve God. And it's not such a chiddush if you read the Torah. V'zeu li'olam hi nikras al shimcha. Oh, now we understand why the paraduma is always called in Moshe's name. Why? Because what's the paraduma? The prototype of all the mitzvahs of the Torah. And Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that gives the Yidden the koyach to perform those mitzvahs in the way that they're supposed to be performed with Mesiris Nefesh. Again, not Mesiris Nefesh, I'm giving up my life. Mesiris Nefesh, I'm giving up my ratzon. I'm realizing that my life is about the Eibishter and not about me. That's hard because I'm a Metzias. Okay, if I have a fighting chance, why do I have a fighting chance? Because I'm connected to Moshe. But that I in those sentences was me. Kikiyum HaTorah mitzvah, because the performance of Torah mitzvahs, the paradumi, klolos of Torah mitzvahs, paraduma is the klal, the general reality of all of the mitzvahs in detail, talui b'schiris inyan of Mesiris Nefesh, is dependent on the inyan of Mesiris Nefesh. V'koyach, again, Mesiris Nefesh, giving up your own ratzon and realizing that you are simply a conduit for the Eibishter's ratzon. To explain that simply, it's late, but I want to explain that very, very simply. It's something that you've probably all encountered, but it's still important to understand what that means, Mesiras HaRatzon, and what a mitzvah allows you and I to do if we really move out of the way. All we have to do is move out of the way and let the mitzvah do its thing. Because what's the mitzvah? Okay, well, what's the dynamic of this event? The dynamic of this event is this conscious person who has a metzias, wants to pick up a cup. Now, I don't have to tell my hand to pick up the cup. I don't have to say, hand, pick up the cup. I want to pick up the cup, so my hand is completely bottled to me, right? He's not me. I mean, he is me, but he's not me, right? I mean, if you were to go like that, I'd go, why'd you hit me? Okay, that's reasonable. I could also say, why'd you hit my hand? That's also true. Because theoretically, God forbid it should happen to anybody in the room, but if God forbid a person were to lose a hand, they don't lose any existence whatsoever. They exist as powerfully as they existed before they lost their hand. So the hand isn't really them. Who am I? Well, whatever's that thing going on in there, whatever's happening in there, that's the real me. Okay, fine. So this hand is my hand, but it's my hand, and it's completely bottled to me. I'd got that. Okay, why'd you hit me? Okay, that's true. But it's even deeper. It's so deep that I don't have to tell my hand to pick up the cup and put it to my lips. If I want to drink the coffee, my hand immediately just does what it's supposed to do, and it's completely bottled to me. It's an extension of me. It's me. Okay, fine. And that's how my Ratzon relates to my hand. Bittul doesn't need any special request. As soon as there's a Ratzon, the hand does what I want it to do. Okay. What if Kadosh Baruch Hu tells me to pick up the cup? Now what's my hand? It's not me. It's just an extension of him. If I want to pick up the cup, so my hand's an extension of me. If the Eibishter wants me to pick up the cup, what's my hand? It's just an extension of Eibishter's Ratzon. Wow. That's a mitzvah. That's when we say a mitzvah is Lashon Savta, that it connects us to the Eibishter. That's the simple understanding of a mitzvah connecting us to the Eibishter. That now my hand becomes simply an expression of the Eibishter's will, not my will. That's Mesiras Nefesh. That's giving my Ratzon over. Meaning I might have wanted to pick up the cup because I want to drink the coffee. The Eibishter wants me to pick up the cup to give you the cup so you can drink the coffee. Okay, say that. So which one do I do? What's my hand? Is it the Eibishter's hand or is it my hand? Right, depends on, to a great degree it depends on whether I allow myself to move out of the way or I demand on inserting myself in there. And which is really interesting. I mean, we could forget about it, but it's 8:30, so I don't want to forget about it. But even when I'm doing the mitzvah, I can insert myself in there and make it all about me. Oh, I feel so good when I pick up the cup. Get out of the way. Just let the Eibishter pick up the cup. No. Oh. I just wrecked the whole thing. That doesn't mean I shouldn't love picking up the cup because the Eibishter wants me to pick up the cup. I should love it. But get out of the way. You're bringing your wife flowers. So you could either walk in the house and say, "Hi, sweetie, I love you." Give her flowers. That's a pretty powerful thing. Or I just want to tell you, I've been thinking about it, and I just have to tell you. And you go like 15 minutes on and on and on about how he thinks about his wife and how she's so wonderful. And by the time he gets to giving the flowers, she's like, I have a life to live. Can you just get, what do you want from me right now? Right? Because it's all about him experiencing this warm, fuzzy feeling of feeling his connection to his wife. And just give her the flowers, and then she'll feel good. Good, isn't it about her? Aren't you giving her the flowers so she'll feel good? Or are you giving the flowers so you'll feel good? You're giving the flowers so you'll feel good, so give yourself flowers. Go get some flowers and stand next to a mirror and give them to yourself and leave your wife alone. You put the poor woman, she has a life to live, she's like a real person. No, she's an extension of me. Oh. Leave the lady alone, my gosh. Poor Abishter, Talui b'schiras nefesh. And where does this come from? Okay, we're going to read this quickly. I'm sorry it's late, but we're going to read quickly to the end of the paragraph. We'll talk about it tomorrow morning. Hine, hakoyach, lizkor tamid. Fourth line up, including the last line. Inyan mesiras nefesh or yidei mesh. And now the Rebbe adds, and we're expecting this from the Rebbe, v'yidei spashtus the mesh b'shchol dar, and also the expression of mesh in every generation. That's Yud Beis Tammuz, so obviously the Rebbe is going to talk about the Friedrich Rebbe. Ad l'kreit yushmei chami admai nasi dareinu. Right, until the Friedrich Rebbe, Baal Simcha, who's obviously it's Yud Beis Tammuz, Baal Simcha v'Gula, the one whose day we're celebrating, the joyous day we're celebrating, whose freedom we're celebrating. V'yesh leimar, one could say, Dal Yedei Shaveidasa Shel Nasi Dareinu, by virtue of the fact that the Aveda of our Nasi, Friedrich Rebbe, B'chol Meshach Shleshim Shneis Nesius, through all the 30 years of his Nesius. We'll talk about this in more detail tomorrow morning, because the 30 years were divided into 3 parts: 3 years in Russia, 3 years in Poland, and 10 years in Russia, 10 years in Poland, 10 years in America. Haisa b'Mesiras Nefesh b'Gilui. All of the Rebbeim have all sorts of different aspects of their Nesius, but there's no question that the Nesius, the leadership of the Friedrich Rebbe, was all about Mesiras Nefesh. Locking and Asinas Kayach, therefore the empowerment of Zechiras Mesiras Nefesh, through the expression of Mesh in our generation, the Friedrich Rebbe, who Begilu Yad is even more powerful. Okay, we'll talk about that, what the Rebbe says at the end, more tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you.